This is part 2 of the ecology notes. Last week, we looked at the difference between biotic and abiotic, and how you can work with organisms to form a population. Populations can become part of a community, which can become part of ecosystems and biomes, and finally the Earth, the biosphere. This week, we're going to focus on energy flow in systems and feeding relationships. To do that, we need to review chemical reactions. A chemical reaction is when you make or break chemical bonds to form or break down molecules. In the example below, we're taking hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, and we're going to form a bond between those two gases to produce water. When you look at a chemical reaction, the arrow stands for turns into. And you read it left to right. So the things on the left of the arrow are the things that are going to be used in the reaction. So these things are called the reactants, and they're present at the beginning of the reaction. The things that are found at the end of the reaction, or the thing that's created, is called the product. So in this chemical reaction, we're using the reactants, which are hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, and a chemical reaction is going to take place, which is going to turn these gases into water, which is the product. So a bond has formed between the hydrogen and the oxygen. So that is a chemical reaction. In our body's metabolism is the sum of all the chemical reactions in our body. And an enzyme is a type of protein, and it helps speed up chemical reactions. By helping to make or break bonds. We have thousands of enzymes in our body that do thousands of different jobs, thousands of different chemical reactions. So enzymes are really the molecules that keep our body running. Why is this important for this unit? Well, most of the energy for life on Earth comes from, you guessed it, the sun. So the sun shines down on Earth and gives us light energy. But how do we use that light energy? Well, the first thing that needs to happen is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is when plants and algae use the energy from sunlight to convert or change carbon dioxide and water into sugar. And that sugar is often known as glucose. Okay, so this is done by plants and algae and some bacteria. The location for photosynthesis is the chloroplast. So here, this is a plant cell. I can tell because it has a cell wall, it has a nucleus, an ER, a Golgi, a large vacuole, and I also can tell because right here it has a chloroplast. Chloroplasts are where photosynthesis takes place. It takes place inside the chloroplast. There are pigments that collect the energy from sunlight. And what goes in? Well, sunlight goes in. What else goes in? Carbon dioxide goes in, and water goes in. And what comes out? Well, glucose comes out, which we use for energy, and oxygen gas. So if I wanted to make reactants and products for photosynthesis, I would say the sun plus water plus carbon dioxide are our reactants, and they are turned into glucose, which the chemical formula for glucose is C6. Oh, sorry guys. The chemical formula for glucose is C6H12O6, and oxygen gas is also created. So these are the reactants, sun, water, and carbon dioxide, and they're turned into the products, which are glucose and oxygen. Okay, so plants and algae make glucose for us, but we can't use glucose directly for energy. We need to change it again. How do we even get the sugar? Well, organisms like humans get that sugar by eating things, as do some bacteria, as do fungi, as do other animals like ants and chimpanzees. So we need to eat. So we take in the sugar. And how do we use the sugar for energy? Well, in cellular respiration, our bodies, this is a chemical reaction where we turn oxygen and glucose into, so I should have said it's a chemical reaction that allows us to turn oxygen and glucose into carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. ATP is so important. ATP is our energy source. We can't use glucose for energy. We need ATP. ATP can help us run. It can help us think. It can help us move. It can help plants and animals and other organisms grow. It can help with cell division. It can help with copying DNA. So ATP is our energy source, and we make it by breaking down glucose. And if we wanted to do the chemical reaction for that, we could say, okay, what do we put in? We put in oxygen gas and glucose. This is glucose. And we turn them into carbon dioxide, water, and the most important one, ATP, our energy source. So these over here are our reactants. And then this arrow says these reactants are turned into products. A common confusion for students is they think that plants do photosynthesis and animals do respiration. That is not true. Plants do photosynthesis, animals do respiration, plants also do respiration. So you can see, here's my animal cell, here's a mitochondria where cellular respiration occurs, here's my plant cell, here's a mitochondria where respiration occurs. So this is the mitochondria. So the location for cellular respiration is the mitochondria. So here's a flow chart of this process. The light energy hits plants and algae. The plants and algae take sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water and turn it into oxygen and glucose. Oxygen and glucose then go into animals, but also into plants. And plants and animals both do respiration to produce ATP, which is our usable energy. Now, the way you get energy is classified differently in ecology. Autotrophs are also known as producers, and they make their own sugar. Okay, and this can be plants and certain type of algae. Heterotrophs, also known as consumers, need to eat to get sugars. And these, we're talking about animals, we're talking about fungi, we're talking about protists. Some bacteria are heterotrophs, some bacteria are autotrophs, okay? But today we're going to take our autotrophs, which mostly are doing photosynthesis, and we're going to separate them out. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take our heterotrophs, our consumers, okay, and we're going to look at the different types of consumers. Okay, herbivores are consumers that eat only plants. Okay, they're also known as primary consumers. You can also write this primary consumers. So you can talk about deer or rabbits. Okay, certain insects. Many insects are herbivores. Okay, although some, like the mosquito, is a carnivore. Okay,